I'm Miranda Miller from Squamish, BC. I grew up in Pemberton, BC from about ages 0 to 13 and kind of started mountain biking a little bit there, but it was definitely when I moved to Squamish at the age of about 13 that mountain biking was just a bigger player in the community, and that's kind of when I started riding more and kind of just slowly get more and more into it. Started racing probably when I was 15, riding downhill, and kind of was really bad at it. And it was one of those things where you were bad at it and it didn't really discourage you, kind of thing. Like, it made you want to do more and more and more. And that's probably where it all kind of started, and then just kind of kept going. My first race was in Penticton, BC. It was like a BC Cup. And I was on a hardtail with triple crowns, and it was sick. I didn't pack shorts for the race. I totally forgot to pack shorts and like my jersey or something. So like the first day of practice, I was in jeans and a t-shirt. And I remember my race run, I was racing Michaela Gatto, who were like the only two girls. And I remember just being so nervous in the start gate and just dropping in and like overshooting the first jump, like crashing off the course, like probably crashed so many times. But it was one of those things where you're like, damn it, like I could have done that so much better. So then you kind of just keep going back. But yeah, I think I'll probably always remember that race. I always kind of raced like recreationally through high school, and I was being coached by Shams at the time. And I remember him saying once, like, would you ever want to race World Cups? And at the time, I had never even thought about it. And then I realized that, yeah, I probably could do that. First year out of high school, and knew I didn't want to go to university right away. And so I was like, oh, I'll like do some racing and see how far I can take it. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, I'll take 1 year off from going to university. And then it was 2 years, and now it's been like 10 years.
Have you ever even done a full season?
No, I've never done a full season.
Why?
Sort of a combination of being injured, or up until this year, it's always been financially supported by mainly myself. So I would always kind of pick and choose the races that worked financially, and since I was paying for it, I was like, well, I'll go to the ones that I want to go to. Last year, I didn't do all the downhills because I did a couple enduros. I do a little bit of everything. So yeah, I've just never done a full season due to either injury or not being able to afford to. I'm looking forward to actually doing a complete season where, you know, you're not just like randomly going to races and being like, all right, let's see what happens this time. Actually being able to work with people and progress at each round. I think that's probably what I'm most looking forward to. There's just as much pressure almost as going to, you know, you're only going to 2 races or whatever, so you kind of want to make those 2 races count. I don't think there's necessarily more pressure. Maybe there is, and I just don't know it yet, but I think it's just maybe a different kind of pressure. But I don't think it's going to be any more stressful. Yeah, this is the first year that I've actually had quite a bit of time away in the off season. I've always kind of worked all the way up until the first race in April, and then just jumped on my bike and kind of go. Whereas this year we went to Tucson, Santa Cruz to ride mountain bikes, and now here in Nelson, I've had way more time on the bike, which is, it's pretty sweet. People last year were always they seemed more upset that I didn't have more support than I did, opposed to like how I felt about it, kind of thing. I'm not sure, I never put much thought into it. You know, I'd try my best to get the best opportunities for me for the next season and just kind of work with what I have. Maybe last season and the season before were really my only not good seasons, but ones that showed that, yeah, I did have further potential. I don't blame like the industry or anything for that. I've never felt that I've been, you know, treated poorly or anything like that. Growing up, it was obviously kind of like Stevie. He was like the one that kind of made it. I remember growing up and everyone kind of saying like, oh, like Canadians, you know, like they never make it very far, and they always had like various reasons of why Canadians never did well, you know, Whistler Bike Park, they're lazy, you know, I don't know, like I was always kind of told these things like, yeah, like Canadian racers only make it so far, and then kind of Stevie came along and he, you know, won and became the World Cup overall and champion, things like that, and he kind of proved that, you know, like we could do it. Enduro's fun, but I find perhaps like my strengths are still in the downhill portions. So for me, say like 60% of an enduro is fun, and the other 40% is like pretty frustrating. So whereas a downhill, usually I like pretty much the whole track. My goals for 2017 would be feel some sort of progression at each race, not necessarily results-wise, but perhaps how I, qualify or how I set up my practice. Podium results in downhill, but then have actually personally feel like I've kind of grown as a racer. I feel like I'm a pretty strong rider. I just need to kind of have a better race plan, things like that. So then hopefully that in downhill can then carry over into my enduro, and I can set up my EWS weekends a little bit smarter. That's like what you're always kind of striving for, is to have that race run that when you finish, you're stoked on it. You're proud of yourself for what you just did. Whereas it is hard to get, because especially, well, both in enduro and downhill, I guess, but yeah, just having some structure that can help you get there, opposed to kind of just winging it on both sides, like having Finn and Loic and then Jared and Curtis. It's pretty cool. Even last year, going to some of the EWSs with Jared and Curtis and just being able to ask questions about the tracks or things like that. Whereas before, I was kind of just on my own, and I think actually having a team where you can work together, and if I have questions, I can ask them in bike setup, things like that.
So it's safe to say you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure.